Good morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick, and this is Premarket Info.
I'm Joel Elconin, and on today's show, we're going to be analyzing Apple numbers and what their charts are saying in this crazy pre-market activity. Last night's other disappointments, Netflix and Buffalo Wild Wings. Things are looking a little better today with Boeing, Caterpillar, Lilly, Ford, Pepsi-Cola beating the street. And can the Fed continue to prop up this market?
Well, the big report there last night, obviously everybody was watching for it, and they disappointed. Apple trading down 28 points here in the pre-market. 573 is at where it's at right now. The numbers for it, they missed the street. $9.32 is what they made against the estimates of 1035, and they also lowered their guidance for the fourth quarter. So it's just an ugly quarter all around here for Apple. What do you think of that report?
Are you up for a little bit of a conspiracy theory this morning?
Go ahead. I love conspiracy theories.
Okay, so the Fed knows that Apple's going to have bad numbers. Okay,
Okay.
so they come out with this information yesterday afternoon, just so the market's not down, three, 400 points.
They figure they got to save the market. We better preempt the Apple bad numbers because it's not going to be pretty in the tech sector. So if we preempt it and say, oh, maybe we're going to give some more stimulus here to the overall market, then the market.
You're learning.
It could be.
I
It could be the
I don't
case.
care about the actual numbers that really release because they can whatever. Well, we'll let the experts on Wall Street figure that out. From a technical perspective, Apple did get back up to the range that it or the 620 area that it hit after the last earnings euphoria. Came back and just flirted with the $600 level, dipped and dived and ducked. And then the news came out, and they pounded it down to 565 in the pre-market. That 565 level coincides with a low that we had back in June. So you got 565 on June 28th. You had 565 in the pre-market. That's the level you got to keep an eye on. On the upside, the bounce only took it to 576. So they're your parameters. I mean, the thing could go anywhere. 574.86 is where it hit in the pre-market. No, 576. Sorry about that, folks. So 576 is your parameter on the upside to watch. If it breaks above there, you could get some real good short covering. And 565, the low on the downside in the pre-market. I keep an eye on that. If, in fact, that gets taken out, you have a low under 560 at 558 and change. So 565 to 75 is just going to be a crapshoot.
This 565 number looks huge to me. It jumps out at me on the charts. We've had multiple lows. This was 565.61 was a low on June 28th, and just looking at it here on the charts, it's just a big level. It needs to hold that level. Starts to get below there. There's not a heck of a lot of support until you get into the 550s. So 565 is definitely, especially being the pre-market low or the after-hours low there, it's critical that Apple holds that number. Raymond James downgrading the stock today. Goldman Sachs lowering the price target to 790 from 850. So they're up a couple hundred points still. So I guess Goldman still thinks it's going to be okay for the next year, but definitely disappointing the street. Watch obviously some of your sympathy plays there because there's going to be a few of them. But market overall actually not doing that bad considering. But let's just first look at it. One more stock got killed
Before we move on to that, I feel a little bit guilty that I did not give our traders investors a little sell signal I got a week and a half ago.
What was the sell signal?
For the third time, Lisa, my wife, could not use her phone, her Apple phone, and she has a 3 or 4 or whatever, because she had to use an earpiece. She couldn't talk into it. And for the third or fourth time, we went in. They
Really?
fixed it. Yeah. And so that was a sell signal. And then they were trying to get her to just purchase this, repurchase the 4. And she's like, no way. The 5's coming out in a couple, couple weeks, couple months. So she delayed her purchase of the iPhone
Four.
of the iPhone
Yeah.
4 until the new one came out, and
Yeah.
supposedly that's what a heck of a lot of other people are doing over there. But Buffalo Wild Wings on a wild ride, huh?
Oh man, Buffalo Wild Wings. That thing got killed there last night. Got quite a bit lower. What was the low there last night? I know it was trading lower than this. It's only down $8 now, but it was in the 60s.
This thing traded under 66 to
It
64.70.
traded to 64.70. Okay, like it's getting a pop then if you consider that, but that is crazy. 64.70 got down to after closing at 78.90. Is trading $70.63 right now, so is quite a bit better here. We'll just have to take you out to the weeklies. We had this big run up from this whole 70 area. You've concerned, and then obviously the last few, well, pretty much the whole year. But now we've run straight down. So when was that big run up there? Towards the end of, I'm just trying to grab it there. It looks like back in February for some reason. It went from like 68 to 86.
Yep, you had that move in February.
Yeah,
Yep. Also, you had a pretty big move. It started the beginning of the year, basically around
right.
started the beginning of the year at 43.85.
Yeah. So we've had a heck of a run, but whenever something moves up that quickly is what I really wanted to highlight. It can move down that quickly too, and it looks like it's going to fill that entire gap here just this morning. Keep an eye, obviously. I don't think $64. I think that's an overshoot again. I don't think that's going to come into play. I mean, they did miss here, 62 versus 68, a pretty good miss, but and a little higher multiple. But man, I can't see it getting down that low here again. If this thing rallies anywhere into the mid 70s, probably going to find tons of sellers here now because that 80 just looks huge up there.
It's funny. I think the real reason behind this is not the earnings. I think I heard yesterday that they decided that they're going to start putting the caloric content, the calories, and what goes into the wings and everything. So now
You
everyone's
don't
going
want
to
to know
see what
that.
they're eating, and they're
You don't
not
want
going
to
to
know
eat there.
that.
Yeah, they're not going to eat there anymore. Besides that pre-market low, you did have a low back in January at 62.19. Boy, that's another $8 from here. What you have since that spike low down there at 64.70, you had a pop up to the $70 level, and then it meandered back down to 66, and now you're kind of back at really the high since it made the low. That's 71.17. You have a lot of air in there up to the $78 level. I think if you do get another decline, it's going to stop well before 66 and well before that market low. When it goes into a rally mode here, you just if you're trying to buy it on the dip, just throw out orders at the half numbers and at 49 and 99 and 24. Just
In front
just
of the
just throw them out there against that, because if you put too many shares out there, the HFT guys are going to lean on them.
Well,
But
that's the thing too, is you got to watch the volatility's wild here. Everything's 100, 200, 300 shares. So if you're trading this in size, you need to lower it. That's just for everything, especially in the earnings season. It's hard to get filled on size. You're sitting out there with a couple thousand shares of this thing. You're like a sitting duck, and they'll step in front of you and just trade ahead of you and lean on your orders. So don't give them the orders to lean on. I'm always a bigger fan of just taking liquidity, especially in wild markets like this. If it's going to have a wide spread. Obviously, it's going to probably be a nickel to a dime, at least off the hop. So you may have to pay that. But I mean, this thing might move around points. So you're trying to save yourself a penny or two. Not the place to save it when you're trading earnings plays. Make sure you get the execution. Don't miss the execution to save a penny. Netflix too, actually, just getting killed here, so that applies to that stock too. Don't miss the execution to save a penny. But man, this stock just disappoints, disappoints, disappoints. They actually beat this quarter, but they said that they might have losses in the third and the fourth quarter, so market not liking that whatsoever. The after hours had actually spiked up briefly on the report, and that's those news algos again. They probably see, oh, Netflix beat, and it boom, and it bought it up. I think a buck. It was trading up to almost $82 right initially after the report at the report time, but then within seconds it tanks off. Obviously, reading the guidance, the other news algo is a little bit smarter reading the guidance news algo versus news algo. And stock got killed, trading down now at $67.
That spike actually got up to 83.67.
Ridiculous. So that just goes to show you there's a lot of these high frequency news algorithms that are not that smart. They just boom, there's one algo just reading that, oh, it beat, and it sends buy orders in there. And these aren't even really all high frequency traders, they're somewhat high frequency, but it's just everybody trying to get into this game of high frequency trading. And you have little firms that really don't know what they're doing, putting programs out there, and they're buying, and the other bigger firms, the ones that do know what they're doing, just eat their lunch.
Okay, looking at the pre-market, you got a dip down there to 64.33. Consolidated at that level for a while, started to head up. Now trading at 67. Have some minor resistance here at 68. That was an area of consolidation after the number came out. Also, major resistance would be at the 71.10. That was the high Becky had on July 24th. It's just giving all back. I mean, they had this consolidation, and then they came out
Yeah.
with some news back here. I can't remember what it was. I think that they did 5 rentals in one day or something, and got this pop up. But of course, it's after the fact. I don't look at the chart very much, but look at all these tops in the 83
Oh,
to
yeah,
$85
yeah.
area. Someone just had they wanted
Dumping,
out. They
dumping.
let it trade above 85 a little bit, then they smashed it back down. But that was a nice area, and probably you don't want to start buying it until you see a formation that you had back down here in June, and it was coincidentally around this level, 65.70 low, 66.40 low. So this saying stay out of the way until it can consolidate and hold
I want
66.
to use this just for some quick education here too. We talk about this. I've said it multiple times. When stocks run in a 2-day period in early July, thing ran from 67 to $82. So basically, you've got 15 points of almost air in there. When it starts to get back into that area, it's going to move through that area very quickly because there's not a lot of reference points. There's not a lot of people who have accumulated positions at these prices. So there isn't a lot of reference points in here. So when they move up that quickly through an area, they can move down that quickly through an area. So if your traders are sitting out there trying to pick a bottom last night and buying at 75, 74, 73, you can look at the chart and say there's just not a heck of a lot in there. So it's almost predictable that once it gets into the 70s, it's going to blow through the 70s because it's all air in there. So check out your dailies. Keep an eye on. Just don't think because the stock falls off $5, it's going to continue. Once this thing started selling off, it was very predictable that it would sell off quickly through the whole entire 70 handle, which is exactly what it did last night. Now you're down here, and now you're finding the area of consolidation where Joe was saying we consolidated in late June. So keep that in mind when you're trading stocks. Look for areas that don't have a lot of reference points, and the stocks can move through there very quickly. It's not all bad news, though. We've said a lot of bad news
Yeah, what
here
we
today.
had like 15 minutes of bad news.
I
People are
know.
probably like,
They're shutting this off. It's too. This is just too much bad news. I can't handle this early in the morning. Caterpillar beat the number handily here this morning. $2.54 versus $2.28. The stock is trading 84.70 right now after closing at 81.43. The cat is on the prowl.
well, you got a breakout here, I guess. We had all those highs at 83.40, double top
Yeah.
83.40, 83.35. So as long as we stay above that level, I know it's a buck away from here. You got to play the cat to the upside. The initial euphoria took it to the nice round number of 86.
86
So, yeah,
bucks.
86 stopped it on the nose, and now we've had a kind of a pretty steady decline since then. So your levels to keep an eye on in the cat are 83, 40, and 86. You got any sympathy plays for our traders?
For Caterpillar, always Deer. Deer always wants to move in sympathy. I've got some ugly trend line on there. Let me remove that. But I haven't looked at Deer for a while, I guess. But Deer always moves with cats, trading up a buck right now. So you're definitely going to see an upward move here in Deer. I'd keep an eye on yesterday's high though, 75.33. That could give you some initial resistance because the trend overall in Deer does not look that great. So just looking at the charts here, this could give you an opportunity to possibly try a short in Deer for you swing traders out there. For you day traders, I'm not sure if it's going to continue its run or not, but it's coming back into a whole resistance area where we had multiple tops in the 76 area, and that could be a nice area if you are a swing trader and you don't like this Deer. This cat numbers could give you an opportunity to try a short on Deer.
Yep. Speaking of sympathy plays in this, one I haven't traded in a long time. I kind of keep in my back pocket. Ingersoll Rand,
Oh yeah.
yep, in that sector, has major resistance at 40.80, but it seems to be being ignored in the pre-market. So if you're looking for a sympathy play flying under the radar, IR Ingersoll Rand.
Boeing flying this morning. Boeing up
Uh,
$2 on their earnings report. Buck 27 versus a buck 12 raises full year guidance. Boeing coming to the rescue in this market. Getting right back up into this area where we struggled before in the 74, 75 area. How high did Boeing get this morning?
Boeing gets soared up to 74.98. I wonder if they're going to use that on CNBC. Boeing soaring and flying high. We're getting a little corny here. Hit 74.98 in the pre-market. Not a ton of volume associated with this. Since it hit that 74.98 level here, it's kind of been a steady drip down, consolidating at the $74 level. Lo and behold, if you go back to the dailies, you do see some resistance up here at the 75.11, which was July 19th high.
Yeah.
I'd keep a real, I mean, I'm not saying to short it there, but I bet you some people would be willing to get out of some longs and probably too far away to see if there's anything in the book there. But 75.11 was the high on the 19th, and
Yeah.
then you go back a little bit farther than that, you had a high at 74.85, 74.74. So that's an area to keep an eye on the upside. If I was playing this long off the open and I bought it at 74 and it did not immediately go to 74 quarter, 74 and a
Yeah.
half, I would be exiting.
Yeah, that's the same thing. You got to get the follow through off the hop. A lot of times in the pre market, there isn't as much volume. I mean, we only traded 16,000 shares here today. This thing's going to trade a lot more volume than that. You can guarantee it. So, off the hop, just like the Microsoft, it opened at the high and tanked. So, if it starts to just look at that initial move and look what happens off the hop. And if the sellers start to come in and they get juicy, they want to take this opportunity, don't try to fight them on it and say, oh no, it's trading higher in the pre market because there's just not that much volume. So it's hard to say where it's going. So just be careful off the hop and watch where the pricing action in the first 5 minutes because that can sometimes dictate the bigger move. Lots of other earnings here. We'll try to get through them. Lilly reported. Obviously, we had bad news on Lilly. Well, not really bad news. Bad news in the sector as the Pfizer Alzheimer's drug was just failed that trial, and Lilly has this huge Alzheimer's drug, so they were concerned that Lilly's might fail as well. But obviously, that's just a sympathy play, and it got killed yesterday. Lilly was absolutely murdered. Down to 41.59 is trading up here this morning at 42.74. So Lilly beating on the number 83 versus 77, getting back up, but getting back up. Look where it's going, right to yesterday's high, that 42.85. So keep an eye on that level. You may find some sellers here that want to get out at yesterday's high that bought off the hop.
Yeah, people are certainly forgetting about yesterday's news here with Lilly. Just pointing out on the downside, look at that 40, the yesterday's low, 41.59. Look at the support it came in there too. Double bottom from June 28th and 29th, 41.41 and or excuse me, yeah, 41.41
Yeah.
was a low. So that's your bogey. That's your area. If you're a long-term trader, you do not want to see that area taken out. You're right about 42.85. A lot of air to fill up there to 43.58. I'm sure that whole area is going to be littered with sellers trying just to square their position. Here's another stock, and we mentioned this before, trades millions of shares during the
Yep.
day. And now
10,000 shares this morning.
Yep. It's traded 10,000 shares this morning. It traded a little bit also in the a little bit more in the pre-market last night. But here's a big thick one. Giving you a bounce back
Yeah.
off yesterday's low. I think people will be looking to exit Lilly.
Yeah, it looks pretty juicy to me. I actually, just for full disclosure, I do have a position on in Lilly here as well. So, moving on though, one more that we want to highlight that just reported here this morning, Pepsi. And it's getting a lift here as well in the pre-market. Not huge, but up a bit. It's bid at 69.51. Only trades, actually, there's no trades on Pepsi today. Pepsi reported. I can't believe that. There's not even a trade on it. It did report earnings. I got it right here, 112 versus 110. So, but it is bid up. So it's bid up with 4,000 shares at 69.51. So you can see I actually bid up 80 cents or from the close or 70 2 cents from the close. So Pepsi is looking like it's going to get a lift. Shocking though, no trades yet. So whenever something hasn't had a trade, you really got to be cautious. So keep an eye off the hop. This whole area, you get back into the 70s, it gets really thick up there.
Yep, 66.90 was the 2-day high. I was just looking at all those lows. They weren't exactly at 70 going back earlier in the month, but they were just up and below that area. I think the earnings, obviously, it hasn't got an immediate push on it, so keep an eye on that 69.90 level as resistance. And I also think some sellers will reload at the $70 level.
Not to be outdone by Apple and Netflix and Buffalo Wild Wings, but Radio Shack, always your number one disappointer on the street. Flying low, not
Jeez.
getting any headlines on CNBC. Poor Radio Shack. Down, it's your biggest loser in the market this morning. Down 26% at $2.70. The road to zero continues, and you know what? It's a pretty straight road. It's been straight down since the beginning of the year. Obviously, I've given my price target here on Radio Shack, so if you're buying at 270, I think you should be careful. What's your take on this
Well,
disappointer?
I think that initially they ran into problem with this stock because they called it Radio Shack.
Yeah.
They should have called it Radio Shacks because now they're probably down to like one store, and it's probably
Radio Shack.
in that one store. The only thing I would say about this, obviously, a stock like this down a buck, you're going to get a lot of bottom fishers in here. Just trying to take it off the books. Maybe been short forever and just don't want to sit on it. 250 was the pre-market low. 20 cents above that. Keep an eye on that. Since it made the 250 low, 280 has been the high. So I think your high frequency traders will start to stack some orders in that area. Just the other thing, I mean, for people that hold Best Buy, don't look at the Radio Shack chart this morning.
Yeah, I don't think really Best Buy has Radio Shack has really any influence on Best Buy. They used to at one day influence each other. I don't think so anymore. But look at that Best Buy
What
chart.
are you talking about? Brick and mortar. I mean, come on. Just a telling of what's going to happen with Best Buy. If this
Well,
is
I'm not, and you know what? That could be the case. I'm not going to come out and say that though. With Best Buy, to sell Best Buy off Radio Shack earnings for you day traders. Long run Best Buy. I don't love the outlook on Best Buy either because, like we've been saying, brick and mortar seems to be dead. Everybody buys their stuff on the internet, but. Let's move on here. What's your overall take on this market? We've obviously had a breakdown through the whole channel that we've been talking about. That happened yesterday. We're bouncing up to the top end of the old range. Is this a gift horse or what is this?
you know what? I don't think I would go long this open with your money. I mean, yeah, obviously, they're shrugging off the Apple news here, still down $29. The overall sentiment with earnings has been, well, yeah, maybe the earnings are better, but the revenues are low. I can't predict whether or not we're going into a recession or what the heck's going on with this economy or what the Fed's going to do. But hey, you've already had a 17-point range in the S&Ps. Maybe you can squeeze another 3 or 4 points
That
out
old
of it.
1342 area. Remember that
Yeah,
area too? Yeah.
yep. I mean, maybe you can squeeze something out of it on the upside, but anybody that took long positions home overnight or bought anything overnight during the pre-market, as we make a new high in the Globex here at 1338, keep an eye on that level. Just noting yesterday, we floated up right near the open. We had a Globex high of 1346.50. We nicked 1346 and a quarter within the first minute or so, first couple minutes of trading,
Yeah.
and then it was lights out from then. So as we speak right now, 1338 the Globex high. Look, maybe a couple more bucks out of this, but this is a bull trap.
A lot of air below. There's a lot of air
Yep.
below, so you got to be careful here. I mean, the market's always unpredictable. It tries to do what everybody else, doesn't think it's going to do, and everybody thinks, oh, the market's going to get killed because of Apple tomorrow, so we come in, the market's up 8. I mean, it always tries to do. So don't just, throw all your money out there saying we can short this thing. It's going to be a free ride down to the lows. We're just saying the charts say that, but it's hard to say. It's so unpredictable in the high frequency world. They control the price. They'll try to do whatever you think that they're not going to do.
Why are you saying the market is unpredictable? It's very predictable.
Very.
It's unpredictable. You can't
There
tell
you
what the
go.
hell these
It's
what the hell's go on in the middle of the night.
predictably unpredictable. That's the
That's a
word of the
good way
day.
to that's a good way to end the show, folks. Good luck trading today, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.